Hi, this is Chia Hippo from Platform Nation, and I am here with
Emil Pagliarulo. I'm the lead designer of Fallout 3.
We're here right now. I got a chance to play for my very first time Fallout 3, and I am amazed. Amazed. The only part that I got to play so far in the demo was as soon as you got out of the vault, and it reminded me just like Oblivion. When you first time you come out of the first dungeon or whatever. How close is Fallout 3 as far as scale and stuff like that to the size of Oblivion?
You know, we haven't really met graphically. It's a bit smaller than Oblivion, but it feels different. It's the geography is different, and when you first leave the vault, there aren't any fast travel markers already active. So you can't instantly travel anywhere. You have to explore the whole place yourself. And I think there's actually probably more to do than there is in Oblivion. It's a lot tighter of an experience, but it's still free roaming. Go where you want, do what you want.
So in other words, just a lot more stuff to do. Smaller area, but a lot more detail in the area.
Basically, yeah. We concentrated on it. Lowering the quantity a little bit so we could concentrate a little more on the quality, and I think it's really paid off for us.
Okay. As far as story goes, about how long, if you just power through the story and stuff like that, really didn't do any side quests, about how long is the game?
If you stick to the main quest, it's around 30 hours. The problem with just doing the main quest really is it takes you by a lot in the wasteland. You're traveling through the wasteland, you're going to different places, so it's very easy to get distracted. It's actually really hard to just stay on the main quest. But if you were to just do that, it would be about 30 hours, so still pretty meaty. I mean, it's considerably shorter than Oblivion's main quest, which is probably, probably 40, 50 hours. But again, quality over quantity.
Gotcha. As far as the combat mode and VATS and stuff like that, and how is that different, or is it more of the same from Fallout 2? Because I only played Fallout 2 for a little bit, and it basically had almost the same system. How is that different, or is there any differences from Fallout 2, the VAT system in that, and the VAT system in this and Fallout 3?
Yeah, well, I mean, the combat in Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 is strictly turn-based, So for us, it's a good compromise. It was sort of looking at what they did and bringing that into a game for this generation of gamers, you know what I mean? And so you can play the whole game run and gun, real time if you want, or you can switch to VATS whenever you want. And when you switch to VATS, it is very much paused. Take your time, relax, queue up moves, and then see how they play out in the cinematic replay.
Okay. One of the things, also like I said earlier, how I was impressed as soon as I left the vault, was all the stuff in the background. Is all that stuff reachable in the final game, or is that just like background filler? Because like I seen the Washington Monument and all that stuff. Is all that stuff actually reachable in the game, or is that just background filler?
You can get to everything. So I mean, you can climb to the top of the Washington Monument. There's a quest there. You can go into the Capitol building. And it's been a really big hallmark of Bethesda games. If you can see it, you can go to it and you can get into it. So. Yeah, you can definitely travel to downtown DC. Downtown DC is about a quarter of the overall game world. It's pretty significant. So yeah, everything you see, you can get to.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the different types of enemies in the game? How many different types? What are their, well, not really what their strengths and weaknesses are, but what's the difference between the lower level enemies and the higher level enemies in the way they look and maybe the way they act?
When you first leave the vault, if you play the demo here, one of the first guys you'll encounter are the bandits. Excuse me, not the bandits, the raiders. The raiders are sort of like the Oblivion bandits, is what I meant to say. And the raiders are sort of like, crazy wasteland guys. They've got mohawks and the leather armor, very much road warrior type of, crazy wasteland guys. And so they're pretty low level. You encounter them a lot. And, one of the other big enemies in the game is the Enclave. They're the remnant of the U.S. military. They played a part in Fallout 2, and they play a big part in the story. We're not really saying how they come into play, but you'll definitely encounter them as one of the bigger enemies of the game. And then there are the super mutants in downtown D.C., rad scorpions, all the classic Fallout creatures as well.
One of the biggest complaints with Oblivion was the leveling system, about how the enemies and things like that scale. So even though you had badass armor and your level was badass, and your magic was badass, you really didn't feel like a badass. How has that changed, the leveling system changed from Fallout or from Oblivion to Fallout?
I think the leveling system is funny. It's from Oblivion. It's taken on a life of its own. I think it's become infamous, and I think people think of it as worse than it actually was. The real problem with it is that we there were some really, really blatant cases where we used it incorrectly. You know, a bandit in Oblivion in the countryside would end up with the best armor. Just didn't make sense. So we've certainly alleviated that, but even taking it a big step further in Fallout 3, you know, the game is different levels of the game, different places in the game. They're tethered, we call it tethered, to a certain level range. You know, so if you go to that range and then leave and then come back, it's at the original level it was when you first encountered it. And that was, in Oblivion it was different. In Oblivion it would level up with you. So, I mean, there are definitely places in Fallout 3 where if you go and you're too low a level, you'll get your ass handed to you. You know, it's like, it's tough, and you've got to sort of gauge that, you know, do I need to come back later? But we're really good about, if you just do the main quest path, making sure that's where we do a little bit more leveling so it's appropriate for any level, so you can, but it's also the case with Fallout, the leveling system is different than Oblivion. In Oblivion, you gain levels as you use your skills. In Fallout, it's an experience points-based system, and you get the brunt of your experience points from completing quests. So we have a good sense of where you're going to be level-wise as you go through the game, at least on the main quest, so we can gear areas towards certain levels ranges. So we're incredibly happy with the way it turned out. It's a good mix, and it's always a challenge, you know, at the higher levels, and you get to feel like a badass too. You know, when you go back to a place you encountered early on, and now you're decked out in your power armor and your laser rifle, whatever. So we feel really good about it.
It was announced earlier about the exclusive DLC, and obviously you can't kind of, you know, portray the content of the DLC, but it won't be anything as cheesy as horse armor this time, will it?
No, we're definitely looking at, you know, bigger, more impressive DLC stuff. You know, we look at the stuff we did later as more of a model, more like the Knights of the Nine or Shivering Isles. You know, I think people forget, you know, horse armor was one of the first things available to download from anyone. So, you know, we were very much experimenting with the model, with the pricing, with what people wanted. And now we have a much better sense of what people want, and we're able to deliver on that.
Cool. As far as the PC version and the console version, what are the main differences? Are there any differences? And
you know, it's just slight interface differences, really. The gameplay's exactly the same. No compromises had to be made for any, you know, anything. You know, for example, on the in VATS, the Vault-Tec assisted targeting system that you've seen, on the console, you've got to cycle through the body parts. On the PC, you can just click the body parts. So, you know, definitely, you know, changes for interface stuff, but that's about it.
What about a level kit, aka tools, like almost like that shit with Oblivion? Will there be anything available like that for Fallout 3 in the near future?
You know, we've talked about it. It's something we're not sure right now. I think people assume it's a given, and it's really it takes a lot of work for us as a studio to do that. It's not as simple as just giving the public the tools that we use. We have to, you know, we have to strip stuff out and polish it up, and so right now we're so concerned about finishing the game that, you know, hopefully that will come later, but we haven't decided for sure yet. But I think, you know, I'm hoping.
Well, now it's the end of the interview. Now it's your time to tell our viewing audience why Fallout 3, the potential game of the year.
Wow.
Potential game of the year.
Yeah, I like that.
If they only have one game to pick up, why Fallout 3 should be the one game they pick up?
You know, there are a lot of games vying for your $60 these days, and not a lot of games are going to give you 100+ hours of play, multiple things to do, you know, live a different, you know, actually true role-playing, you know, become another person in another world, and that's what we offer, and I think people really dig that, and I think that's what's gonna sell the game for us, what people are going to enjoy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
This is Chia Hippo for Platform Nation, here at PAX, signing out. Peace.